Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. Today is the anniversary of the beginning of the Klondike Gold Rush. It erupted after the discovery of gold near Rabbit Creek in the Yukon. This was on August the 16th, 1896. Rapidly, it became one of history's greatest illusions for humanity's endless pursuit of wealth and not wisdom. And the problem is, greatest illustrations, and the problem is every generation is going to come up against a new kind of material rush. And that's why learning from history is such an important facet of our growth in maturity as Christians. So gold fever, it reached Seattle about a year during July of 1897. Steamships had docked with more than a ton of gold packed inside suitcases and coffee cans and blankets. And at that point, newspapers exploded with stories of instant fortunes, and all of these transformed ordinary, daily, diligent citizens into gold fever pilgrims chasing this earthly paradise that they were promised. And the problem is it was more vividly in their imagination than in the reality of the Yukon. The numbers today revealed a staggering reality. So nearly 100,000 people left homes across the country and occupations to pursue wealth in this area of the Yukon, and only about 30,000 completed the brutal journey into the Klondike. Many of them lost their lives. And of the 30,000, only about 4,000 found meaningful quantities of gold. And even then, an even smaller number actually became wealthy off of whatever quantities of gold they found, which means the overwhelming majority, I mean, you're talking less than 1% at this point, the overwhelming majority exchanged the life that they knew, the security that they had, for fantasy. And they sacrificed and encountered tremendous disappointment, loss of life, loss of family, loss of livelihood. History has shown us time and time again that human beings excel at calculating possible rewards if done rightly. The problem is, sometimes the promise of the reward is so alluring that we can consistently not calculate the probable cost of getting there. 1/4 of the Seattle Police Department force resigned. Streetcar operators abandoned their work, and so the routes were left unmanned. Merchants closed businesses. Commerce across Seattle took a massive hit. Even elected officials across the Seattle area, the greater Seattle area, some of them deserted their offices. They just walked out of the offices. Charles Mackay, he recognized this enduring weakness 2 centuries ago, and he observed, "Men, it has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds." The Klondike Gold Rush was just another chapter in that larger human story. The funny thing is, popular memory celebrates the successful miner, he with his sack of nuggets slung over his shoulder, who made a killing for himself, so to speak. Historical memory must be honest. We must remember the exhausted father carrying 2,000 pounds of supplies across mountain passes, because the Canadian authorities at the time demanded that if you were going to be a prospector in the area, you had to come into Canada from the U.S. with every prospector bringing at least a year's worth of provisions. So you had to sell so much of what you owned in order to have a year's worth of provisions so that you could even come into prospect. The Northwest Mounted Police, the Mounties, under Superintendent Sam Steele, they understood that these dreamers, well, they can forget the limits of their own biology. And so thousands of men climbed the Chilkoot Pass 20 or even 30 times because pack animals couldn't survive the steep ascent. There was actually one frozen slope that laborers had carved roughly 1,500 steps into in this solid ice, actually. In fact, they call it the Golden Stairs today, and in some weird way, as I was doing my research on the Klondike Gold Rush, this particular location reminded me of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. You know, all that glitters is gold, and now you quite literally have these stairs that are called the Golden Stairs. Many people who collected tolls upon those frozen steps. And in fact, funnily enough, many of them earned more money than the countless prospectors who climbed them every day trying to hunt for gold. Human history demonstrates that those who are selling shovels often prosper more reliably than those buying them. especially when it comes to gold rushes. The Klondike quickly attracted another industry, and that industry was food packaging, actually. So miracle food packages promised miraculous nutrition, portable houses, electric gold pans, mining schools, clairvoyants, trained gophers that supposedly would sniff out where the gold was. Many different entrepreneurs came forth to try to facilitate this great foolish endeavor. Nature, however, was magnificently indifferent. In the spring of 1898, an avalanche upon the Chilkoot Pass killed 63 people in a few terrifying seconds. Storms destroyed camps, it scattered supplies around the wilderness. More than 3,000 horses and pack animals died along the White Pass. And I could go on, but the fact of the matter is even those who reached Dawson City had another enemy. They starved. Government officials found that remaining provisions during September of 1897 were so limited that they issued public warnings. Food supplies would fail before winter ended, and those who had inadequate provisions were courting death. And, so Inspector Constantine of the Mounties, he warned prospective settlers that if they starve, they quite literally had no recourse in those deserted towns. And the problem is disease followed, hunger followed. Now, I can tell you the stories of what happened, but you can also look it up. What I want to highlight here is that the Klondike reveals a deeper spiritual lesson that you and I have to wake up to. Civilizations throughout history, every generation, we create our own idols. We create our own golden calves. Ancient Israel molded one from jewelry beneath Mount Sinai. Modern cultures make them from stock prices, cryptocurrencies, celebrities, political power, endless consumption. You name it, every one of us has idols we need to cast down before the Lord. None of us is exempt from this. Every day we need this purification. Tolstoy wrote a short story, How Much Land Does a Man Need? And in that story, there's a sister who wisely remarks, loss and gains are brothers twain. That single proverb is exactly what's going on here. That we need to understand fortunes can rise rapidly and disappear with equal speed. And that's why Scripture teaches us, do not toil to acquire wealth. Be wise enough to desist. Now, that doesn't mean that wealth is sinful, but the story here is, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Because not everything is worth pursuing. Not all that glitters is gold. Because the deepest irony about the Klondike is in the fact that countless fortunes emerged during the gold rush by people who were not directly seeking gold. They'd never mined a single ounce of gold. Merchants, transport companies, restaurant operators, toll collectors. In fact, Donald Trump's grandfather, Friedrich Trump, built restaurants and hotels serving miners during that era. It's a little fun fact I discovered. The point of the matter here is that St. Augustine, if you read his Confessions, he identified humanity's deepest disorder. Our hearts are restless until it rests in God. And believe me, I understand between whatever struggles the economy has and the need to provide for a family, these are legitimate concerns. But the solution is not to chase idols, nor is it to make an idol of the government. The solution is, number one, faith in God, and by virtue of faith in God, diligence and discerned, prudent decisions in providence. So yes, we as Christians can remember the Klondike Gold Rush, and we can be grateful that they've taught us such a powerful lesson, because their frozen mountains and where they perished are our glowing screens today, our smartphones. It's easy to point the finger at them, but our markets, our platforms, our careers are the gold fields of the 1800s. The anniversary of the Klondike Gold Rush deserves remembrance. We have to remember it, because the frozen trails of the Yukon teach us the same lesson that Christ proclaimed beside the Sea of Galilee. Treasure that is pursued without God will enslave us and, frankly, kill us. Wealth that is received under God's providence becomes a gift, and that gift is ordered towards charity, and that gift therefore can be used for the sake of building the common good and the glory of God. Only one treasure will survive our death, my friends. Only one kingdom will endure every economic collapse. So let us fix our eyes upon the cross of Christ, and today let us cast down our idols. Stay tuned, I'm Marcus Peter.